All right, so today what we're going to do is 19C, we're going to look at what are called column graphs, also known as bar charts. You might have heard bar charts before, right? So, or bar graphs. Now, again, this is just another way to visually represent data. Because if you were just looking at a long list of numbers, a lot of times that's hard to see any patterns or see what's happening. But if you put things in the form of a picture or a bar graph, then you can get some ideas of what's going on. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at some column graphs and look at some ways that you read the column graphs, some things that are specific to them, and then we're going to talk about some steps for creating your own. Okay? So let's just pop over to the textbook. Here we go. So a column or bar chart, column graph or bar chart, uses bars of different lengths to compare different quantities. So there's your definition, guys. You need to write that down. A column or bar graph uses bars of different lengths to compare different quantities. Each type of graph that we use, you're going to see, has different strengths and weaknesses. And one of the strengths here of the bar graph is that it's really easy to compare. Okay. As we go, you're going to see that some charts are better at some things than others, right? We just said that this was really good at comparing. These are also tend to be fairly accurate. In other words, they're easy to draw the correct values for. Okay. Sometimes you lose some data when you put it in the form of certain charts or graphs. And so that's an important thing to remember. Why would you use this? Because you want to make comparing easier, and you can easily make this accurate. You're not going to lose the accuracy of these. So they're easy to read. Okay? So here we go. We have a table of values. If you just looked at this table with just numbers on it, could you quickly tell me which one has the most acres area under cultivation? Yeah, you could see that wheat does, right? But you still had to go through all of those numbers. Yeah? What if there were pages and pages and pages of these? It would be a little more difficult to find the largest one. Yes? So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this same information given to us as a bar chart, and you can see how easy it is to read the information. So looking at the column graph, it's really easy to see that wheat is the most planted, covers the most area. Yes? All right. What's the smallest one? Oats, right? Okay. The next to the largest would be sorghum. Yeah? So it's easy to see very, very clearly what it is you're looking at. Also, because of the scale here, it's fairly easy to read the actual numbers. So if you look at wheat, for example, it's just above 450, 2 lines above 450, which would be 470. So you see, you don't lose the numbers either. You can still read it very accurately. Yeah, makes sense? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to create one of these for yourselves. Now, they just give you some general ideas, but you know me, I'm going to give you some steps. So the first thing is you need labels. Good news. If you forget the labels, everything else you do is wrong. Because it's worthless. It's just a bunch of things on a chart that have no meaning. Right? And you must label your x-axis. From our previous graphing, which one's the x-axis? The horizontal one, the bottom one, that's your x-axis. You must label your y-axis. That's the vertical one, right? You must also give a title to the entire chart. Any one of those things is missing, then I'm just going to mark it wrong. Got it? So you have to be sure. And that's not just me being picky. You're going to see that as you move forward in year 11 and year 12 and all the other years you do, when you work with these graphs, if you miss one of those things, it bumps you down from an A to a B. And you don't want that. All right? So be careful about these. Also, second thing you need to do is you need to determine a scale, an appropriate scale. Now, if you notice, this is the same graph that they just did, but they did it sideways. That doesn't matter. Which direction you put it doesn't make any difference. But you need an appropriate scale. And since this one went up to 470, but it started way low, then we needed a scale that represent all of those. So they used 0 through 500. If your largest number was 20, then you might use 0 through 20, right? You don't need to get carried away with drawing them too big, but you must make sure that you're using some appropriate scale. And that's going to be one of the most difficult parts of drawing any of these graphs or charts, is determining what scale to use. Okay? If you have numbers 0 through 500, do you want to mark them off in ones? No. You could do tens, but even that's pretty big. 50s would make sense, right? Again, depending on your data. If they were all like 200, 300, 400, 500, then you could just use hundreds as your scale, right? So just be careful that you don't get it too bunched up or too spread out. All right? Then, third thing. For this kind of thing that you're going to do, the bar's height is the number value. So in other words, if it's 470, then you make that height go up to where 470 would be. So the height represents the number. Make sense? Yeah. Also, something about the bars. The bars don't touch. Notice there's a space between each one of those bars, and there has to be. Okay? You cannot let them touch. That's a different kind of graph that we'll talk about later. Okay? So the bars cannot touch in one of these. Each one of these things is a separate category, right? So each one needs its own bar, and they can't touch. Right? And coloring them is completely optional. You can if you want to, but you're not required to. All right? So again, labels, make sure you label it carefully. Determine the proper scale. Then you simply draw bars whose heights represent the number value that you're given, and make sure that the bars don't touch. Pretty straightforward. So let's look at a couple. So here we go. This one, they've already drawn it for you, so we're just going to be reading this. So there's a survey where students were asked what kind of music that they preferred. Okay. How many categories of music were in the answers? 6. See how easy it is to get information from these charts? Good. What was the most popular music listened to? Rock. Okay. Least popular? Latin American. Okay. So do you see it's really easy to read information from these? Now, were there any that had the same amount of listeners?
Classical and jazz, classical and pop.
Yeah, there are 3 of them that were the same height. Yeah. Okay. So it's easy to compare these things. Now, they're going to ask you some specific questions about them. So, how many students chose classical as their favorite style of music? So you just go, yeah, there you go. So you just go to the top there and read across. And so 20 students chose it. Easy to read, yes? Okay. Good job. What was the least popular style of music according to the survey? Latin American. We did that one, yeah. What is the total number of students surveyed? And how can I know that? Add them all together. Now, in lots of books, what they will have you do is anytime you make a bar chart, they make you write the height of the bar on the top of it. And that's a good habit to get into. Right? So what is that? 55. That's 20. And that's 20. And that's what? 15. All right? So do you see that writing the height of the bar on top as a number makes it easier then to find exact values. So my advice to you was, anytime you see one of these, write the numbers on top so that it makes it easier. And now, so if you write the numbers on the top, then it's easy to find the total number of students simply by adding them all together. So take a moment and add those together, please. There you go. So if you took all of those, added them together, you would get a total of 200 students. All right? Now that total is sometimes given to you, sometimes not. Sometimes when they're describing it, they'll give you the total, but you can also find it fairly easily if you can read all the values off the chart. Good job. Okay. Let's see what the next question is. The next question is, what is the percentage of students who surveyed who chose country and Western as their preferred option? So remember that when we're doing a percentage, we need the part over the what, guys? The whole, yeah? And then we just multiply that by 100%, or just simply move the decimal two places to the right and then add the percent symbol. Good. So the percentage of student who chose country and Western. So country and Western, let's see, that's this one. So there were 55 of those out of how many total students? 200, right? Then you would just divide that out and turn it into a decimal. Somebody want to do that for me, please? You should have your calculators in front of you.
It's
55 by 200, someone?
27.
Wow.
Thank you, 0.275. Then you either multiply that by 100% or simply move the decimal two places to the right, which gives you 27.5%. Yes? There we go. So that reminds you of how to do the percentages. All right, so part over whole and then move the decimal. Let's see what's next. The percentage of students who did not choose rock as their preferred option. So if they did not choose rock, how would I get the number of those? What could I do? I could add up all the others, but is there an easier way?
It's 110.
There you go. So two things you could do. You could take all of the ones that aren't rock and add them together. But if you know there are 200 students, you can simply subtract out the 70 that like rock and get the 130 that way. It literally makes no difference. One's slightly faster, but as long as you get the right number, remember mathematics is not about the speed, it's about the accuracy. And then you would simply put that 130 over 200. 0.65, which you change to 65%. Yeah? Okay. Okay, let's see what's next. Oh, that was it. Okay, so there you go. And if we look at our answers, we got them right, so we're pretty happy. So you have homework in 19C.
Because it's 2
So you'd take some time and go ahead and get that started now, please.